morning. Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we are going to discuss the issue of women's representation in executive bodies. Through this module, we intend to facilitate your understanding regarding the challenges faced by women in executive bodies both in India and abroad. As you know, executive plays a very critical role by enforcing the laws made by the legislature. As the enforcing authority, executive is responsible for the implementation of plans, programs and policies as well as making the citizens aware about this. They are also accountable for the daily administration and maintenance of law and order. As you know, we have two kinds of executives. One is political executive, the other is non-political executives. Political executives include the minister along with the prime minister at the center and the chief minister in the states. The non-political executives include the bureaucrats who are supposed to be independent of political ideologies and supposed to be neutral to political parties. Here we are not going to discuss the non-political executives. We are going to focus on the political executives and the challenges that women face when they try to make inroads into the political executive posts. Data from Inter-Parliamentary Union shows that there were just over a dozen women serving as heads of state or government around the world in 2011. 5 years later, the scenario had not changed a lot. As per the data from the United Nations, only 17% of government ministers during 2014-15 around the world were women. But when compared to the 1960s and 70s, the data does paint a brighter picture. There were only 3 heads serving as heads of state in 1960s, that was upgraded to 6 in the 1970s and to 7 in the 1980s. Data from the 1990s shows a swift rise to 26, while the first decade of the 21st century witnessed 29 women serving as chief executives of governments across the globe. The UN Women data found majority of these ministers to be overseeing social sectors such as education, family welfare and women development ministries. South Asia is often taken as an example with a focus on Sirimavo Bandaranaike, Indira Gandhi, Benazir Bhutto, Sheikh Hasina and Begum Khalida Zia. However, the truth remains that all the above leaders came from influential political families. For a woman from non-political family, contesting election is no easy job even in the 21st century. Now let us turn our attention towards the need for representation of women in executive bodies. A natural question that arises is how are things going to change if women are given political executive positions? While there is no strong evidence to back any claim that shattering the glass ceiling for women in politics necessarily makes a difference, it would be concealing the achievements of many women leaders across the globe if we respond in negative. Whether women can or cannot make difference depends largely upon their level of education, networking capability and strategic ability to influence situations. There are a number of examples where women political executives have acted very decisively in adverse situations. Take the example of Indira Gandhi during India's clash with Pakistan in 1971, Golda Meir's handling of attack on Israel between 1969 and 73, and Margaret Thatcher's response to Falklands War in 1982. Female representatives not only advance women's rights, but they also advance the rights of children. In all these cases, the respective leaders have reacted to the adverse situations in a very decisive way. Many feminists such as Carol Gilligan in 1982, Sarah Rudick in 1995 have established that women and men have different perspectives over the same life situation owing to the gendered nature of child rearing. This logic could very well be extended to the political realm. Thus, women political executives can bring in their viewpoints to resolving political challenges and in formulating policies which could result in a holistic approach to various problems. A report of the UNICEF
in 2006 has stated that a growing body of evidence suggests that women in politics have been especially effective advocates for children at all levels, sponsoring legislation, fostering tangible changes in policy outcomes that reflect the rights, priorities, experiences and contributions of women, children and families. In India, women Gram Panchayat leaders who have come to power due to reservation accorded to women through the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act have been lauded to have made differences to the lives of many people in local communities. One of the examples documented by Puspa Chanta of Women's Feature Service is that of Atibele Gram Panchayat. Of its 3 lakhs people, around 35,000 live in 8 wards of Atibele Gram Panchayat, which is the site of a quiet revolution. The women in Panchayat Raj institutions have been able to make a considerable difference to the lives of the local community. They have been able, especially, to reach out to women from marginalized communities who were otherwise outside the loop. They have done this in spite of the fact that many men are not comfortable with the presence of women in the Gram Panchayat and have sometimes resorted to talking ill about them. But the women have persevered, and what is striking is that there have been no instances of financial irregularities in Atibele Gram Panchayat. The road ahead for women aspirants for political executive posts. For an ordinary woman from non-influential, non-political family, she must have awareness, belief, confidence in her own capability to lead. Second, her family must believe in her and support her decisions. This is very important as women in almost all societies are tied to gendered roles within families. Third, being a political executive implies not only representing the interests of community but also leading them. Community support base is very important for a woman as well as a man to go ahead. Political parties are also the mediums through which representatives get larger ideological support base. It is very important for women aspirants of political executive posts to gain support of political parties that they are a part of. Now let us discuss the challenges to representation of women in executive bodies. First, there are certain challenges that are faced by women on account of their gender. Gender ensures that they remain tied to social stereotypes while choosing their careers and trying to succeed. The second aspect of challenge faced by women is political parties that mediate the road between the political executive aspirants and executive positions within the government. The discussion below is based on these two aspects. First, let us focus on gender roles. Women's traditional gender roles as nurturers and caregivers within family tie them to household and childcare responsibilities, either as a choice or as a necessity. This certainly implies higher costs of entering into public spaces that demand a lot of time, energy and attention. In most societies, women are not allowed to explore their potentials as they are traditionally tied to gender stereotypes. Though educated, most women prefer to go into professions that are approved by their societies as feminine. That is why one finds more women in sectors such as education, healthcare, interior decoration and fashion designing. Considered as a masculine realm, politics is one of the lesser attractive professional options for women in most societies. As a result, many women may not enter into politics even if gender quota is enforced in political realm. In India, for example, gender quota in Panchayati Raj institutions has led to rise of women candidates who act as proxy for their male family members. Need to prove more. It is held in popular imagination across societies that women are not made for tougher jobs. Women in most societies are seen as softer and milder sex who should be given jobs that nurture and serve. This is ironical given the fact that women are now not only performing many jobs requiring rigorous physical labor, but also have proved to be influential decision makers. Yet in societies, both developing and developed, the standards set for women are higher than those for men. This is especially true for women who wish to run for political decision-making posts. Such women are held to higher standards than men and always have to face critical scrutiny. This is indeed ironical, as the world has been witness to many influential women leaders. Lack of preparation for political activity. Disproportionately burdened with family and household chores, women naturally prefer non-competitive environments for professional options. This may restrict their drive to participate in highly competitive races such as elections for political executive posts. Results of a series of experiments to determine how women and men perform in a non-competitive environment showed women are less successful than men in tournament-based environments. This effect is strongest when women compete against men rather than only women. This may present an additional challenge to women competing in a largely male-dominated winner-takes-all environment. Discriminatory system of selection. Existing systems of selection of candidature may not favor women's political participation as candidates to political executive positions. Parties take into account a host of factors such as ability to mobilize financial resources, public opinions, popular support, and close association with party leaders while deciding that candidature for political executive posts. It is not easy for women to prove themselves on these counts. Research has shown that proportional representation systems lead to greater representation of women versus other systems. A study conducted by the Center for Social Research for the United Nations found that women in a number of South Asian countries had to confront both discrimination and violence. This was found more in case of women who were first-generation politicians. Considered as having less ability to take decisions, most women struggle hard to get sufficient space within political parties. This implies fewer women getting tickets to contest elections. Very often, the logic of winnability is used against women. The same study also found women leaders being provided inappropriate election symbols that at times is used to humiliate them. They also risk harassment and violence both by their own and opposition party members while campaigning. Prevalence of sexism in political domain. Sexism is a widely found phenomenon in politics across the globe. This could be seen if one analyzes the speeches of male political candidates during the election time, be it India's Lok Sabha elections of 2014 or the ongoing campaigns for American presidential elections during 2016. Women candidates have to face personalized and sexualized comments from their male counterparts. To cite an example, the comments by a male leader for a female leader of his opposition party was like this in India: "I don't understand how I should look at her as a sister, as a wife, or as a virgin daughter." Even in the US presidential elections of 2016, female presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had to face an internet campaign called "Iron My Shirt, Hillary." Now let us discuss what needs to be done. The following measures can be adopted to improve the visibility of women in political arena. Number 1, breaking the gender stereotypes in societies and political parties. As they say, charity begins at home. Work must start from the society. Political arena demands representatives to be an agency of change. The World Bank's World Development Report on Gender Equality and Development in 2012 defines agency as the ability to use endowments to take advantage of opportunities to achieve desired outcomes. The main focus was on 5 expressions of agency, such as women's access and control over resources, freedom of movement, freedom from the risk of violence, decision making over family formation, and having voice in society and influencing policy. Achieving such agency would require women to break the gender stereotypes created and accentuated by societies through norms and rules that expect women to be subservient to men within families and outside. Second, training and capacity building programs for women. There is a strong need to cultivate leadership qualities among women through training and capacity building programs. Many women manage daily affairs of homes and lead households in the absence of men, even without much education. Education certainly is an important but not a necessary condition for leadership. But what certainly is an essential attribute for leadership is an awareness of self and one's own capacities. This is where training and capacity building can act as facilitators for future political executives. Such capacity building programs held by both governmental and non-governmental agencies have been supporting many women panchayat leaders. Third, making sexism accountable. Sexist comments should not be tolerated by any political party within democracy. Such comments should be made punishable offence within parties so that female members of parties feel confident enough to aspire for both positions within the party and to contest for political executive positions. Gender quotas. Gender quotas or reservation is widely seen as an important medium to get more women into higher political positions. Success of reservation policy for women in Panchayati Raj institutions in India have encouraged many from women's movement to consider such quotas for the political executive positions at the central and state level. There could be three types of quota that could help increase representation of women in executive bodies. First, political parties could adopt voluntary party quotas committing themselves to nominate a certain percentage of female candidates for electoral lists. This could be done by making sure that every second entry on the list must be a woman. Second, law could be passed making candidates quotas constitutional that reserves a certain number of candidate positions for women. Third, certain percentage of constituencies or seats could be reserved only for women, thus making women only contest in those seats. Many countries of the South Asian region have adopted the system of quotas. Now let us sum up what we have learned from the module. We have learned that executive branch of the government is very critical in democracies. We have also learned that in order to establish an inclusive polity, we must have a lot of representation of women in executive bodies. We have also learned that across the globe and also in India, women do remain very poorly represented in executive bodies. And we must improve that, we must change that. In order to improve the situation, we have to look into the societal aspect as well as the political arena, which is full of sexism. We can also bring about gender quota system to improve the situation. Thank you so much.